all right. Welcome back to another episode of To the Fullest with Jason Froberg. Today we have author and songwriter Danny Goldy Jr. Goldstein on the podcast. Welcome, Danny. How you doing today, my brother?
Hey, what's up, buddy? How are you?
I am doing great, man. Just surviving this little corona outbreak, hanging out, doing the quarantine, hoping to end this thing as soon as possible, man. How you doing?
Same thing, man. Everybody's kind of dealing with the same situation, and it's a pretty interesting time to be alive. You know, lots of just new day things going on all the time. So, yeah, my wife Alice and I just been dealing with it like everybody else, and it's been pretty interesting. For me, I think that it probably affects me less on a day-to-day than a lot of people because I have a neurological disease called Charcot-Marie-Tooth, and it's CMT for short. About 1 in 2,500 people get it a year. It's hereditary, and for me, it affects my lungs. So for like the last 20 years or so, every time flu season comes around, they're like, oh, you got to take a flu shot, try to stay out of crowds. So I've always been very cognizant of a lot of this stuff that's going on now. A lot of times I'm at a show and I'm trying not to like talk too close to people, or if I shake someone's hand, I won't touch my face until I can go wash my hands. So in that regard, I've been living this life kind of before it was cool. And it's been pretty wild because they tell me every year, oh, you got to take a flu shot. They tell everybody, kind of like the same situation. Everybody does compromise health to get a flu shot. The problem is I got a flu shot and never been sicker in my life than when I got the flu shot. So ever since I did that, I didn't take the flu shot again. And that's been about 8 years now. So I've just, every time I'm even more careful. So with that going on, it's been, pretty much the same because I'd be doing a lot of those things, but it's just a whole nother level, remembering to wear a mask when we go out, and I've just been, my whole going out has been compromise of going down the elevator at my place, going in my van and just sitting in there while Alice goes into the store and she's washing her hands like Howard Hughes or something, and putting gloves on and masks and getting suited up. It's really like living in a movie. Very weird.
It is, right? We've been watching apocalypse movies as much as possible, stuck in quarantine, man. But you go outside and see everybody in masks, and all the supplies are just gone, and it's an interesting time to live in. Actually, I was out hanging out with my pop the other day, and we're just looking around, and we noticed there is not a plane in the sky. And it started to come back now, but when it was really the beginning of April or so, I've never seen that. My whole life, I've never seen the point where you can look up in the sky. There's no trails, there's no planes, there's no air traffic of any kind. It was a pretty trip, and we both made we had the realization that's probably the only time in our lives we'll ever see that again, where there's no air traffic flying over constantly. I mean, I live right by McCarran Airport, so I'm always seeing planes, and I'm always seeing the trails, and
I'm just south of myself.
Yeah, so
I made a joke to Alice the other day. We were driving down Eastern, and we were going to turn west on Sunset, and I go, hey babe, do you want to go and not watch the planes land?
Ha! Yeah, we used to love doing that.
Yeah, just pretty wild. And then, I don't know, it's just like a Generation X thing. We have seen some crazy things, man. Like growing up without the internet, and then, we get in our 20s, and all of a sudden all this stuff that was hard is now easy. But then you see, like, I have little nephews that are 6 and 8 years old, and I realize, man, they're like literally learning to run before they know how to crawl because of technology. So, it really tripped me out because he saw a black and white cartoon one day, and he was mesmerized by it. Like, to him, seeing something black and white was like us seeing something, you know, in hi-fi for the first time. Just really wild. It's a whole different environment for a younger generation. And now we have this. It just really.
Yeah,
I mean, could you imagine when?
Keep going.
I was just saying, could you imagine when if we were teenagers, and this had happened, say in 7th or 8th grade, and they said, "Okay, check it out. We're going to cancel half of the school year, and you can't go out and do anything." You know, I would have been like, 14-year-old me would have been like, "That's not happening."
Oh yeah, I'd be losing my mind if I was a teenager. I feel bad for those guys. They, you know, those kids have got to be losing their frigging minds with all those hormones pumping through, and they just want to go out and take the fucking world by the horns, and they're stuck at home in quarantine. That's just terrible.
Yeah, with their parents, everybody pretty much hates in their teenage years, you know.
Yeah.
Like, what could be worse?
That's when you rebel against
and then
authority.
people, you know, they're just like, there's every level of hatred on this thing, on no matter what view you have. There's just so much negativity out there, and people are just like demonizing these kids that go out. But it's like, man, just think back, you know, 20, 30 years, what you would be thinking. It's really a lot to take in.
Yeah, totally. I mean,
Yeah.
I see it in my neighborhood, man. Like, it actually brings a smile to my face. I see a lot of these kids. They're riding up and down the block on all kinds of different wheelie jobs that they got, and playing basketball, and you know, everyone's just like living their life. You know, it's good to see. You know, they're enjoying themselves and not taking shit too seriously. I know it's a pandemic and everything, but like, people need their sanity too, and it's good to see kids outside playing with their neighbors, and you know, everyone's not in that whole fear situation that I don't know, the world tries to put you in, where you think everybody's coming to get you, you know, and it's not happening.
I know, just all of this conflicting information, all of these things that don't add up. It's just, you know, just the narrative and all the rhetoric is just a lot to deal with. I just laugh at it. It's just, you know, it's like everybody's in a state of like, you want to be a little bit scared, but not all the way scared. And you want to say this is all BS, but then you're like, well, if I'm wrong, then I look like a complete idiot. And especially for me, I have to be careful anyway.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, I mean, the whole world's being shut down. I'm pretty sure it's not made up. As much as people want to believe that, you know, it's just some kind of crazy grand conspiracy to keep us in our houses. People are dying and they're getting sick all over the world, and you know, it's a disease, and it might be not as dangerous as people make it out to be, but it's out there fucking killing people, man. You know, and it's shut down the whole world. It's no joke. It's definitely no joke.
Yeah, I mean, that's for sure. It's just the most skeptical part I have of it is nothing has ever been covered in a way that is so sensationalized. Like,
oh yeah,
because this started happening, the way this has happened, it made me start really looking into some things. I never would have imagined that 80,000 people died in the States of the flu last year. I would have never known that. I knew the flu does kill people with compromised health like myself and older folks and stuff. But, you know, up until this point, our whole answer to that as a society is, well, you know, if you're really sick, you should stay at home. So you see somebody working sick and they're like, well, I can't afford to be home. And they're like, most people are like, oh, okay, that's fine. Or, you know, cough into your arm. And that was the extent of it, you know?
Yeah, you just never, you know, it's dangerous out there, man. There's all kinds of shit killing everybody, and I mean, you know, you just look at heart-related illness and people just dying from cardiac arrest and that kind of illness. It's just insanely high numbers. You know, everybody's just fucking dying from their heart stopping all the time, and nobody seems to want to do anything about that. I mean, you know, obviously doctors are working their asses off, but nobody's fucking terrified, and they're all still going to McDonald's, fucking smashing Big Macs, you know, and it's like, that shit's fucking killing everybody, you know, hundreds of thousands of people a year, and yeah, I mean, I don't know, we're worried about little bullshit. It's just, I think it's just sensationalism blowing up things because it's a hot new topic to talk about, and we're just gonna blow it way the fuck out of proportion. But who knows?
Like the main thing I've been saying, you know, since this started really, is that, you know, people say you can't compare it to the flu because it's much more dangerous and it's much more contagious. And then just like I was saying, okay, so our answer to the flu was basically nothing, to cough into your arm, right? Wash your hands. You heard a little bit of that. So now we're using social distancing, wearing masks, washing our hands, wearing gloves. I would think that that would bridge the gap between contagion. But you know what I mean? Like, how much more contagious can it be when you catch it the same exact way that you catch the flu? You catch this by being around somebody that's infected too close, and you catch it by touching the surface and then touching your face, just like the flu.
Yeah.
So there's, you know what I mean? It seems like, you know, people that are able-bodied and healthy could definitely be working, especially if they're social distancing and they're using those precautions. It seems like it would be even a healthier environment than we normally live in. And then just on a state level, on a city level, we're all, you know, being told to stay home, but we have 2,000 people working on a stadium. And, you know, even if they're, I drove by it. It took 10 seconds to drive by. And I saw some guys that were definitely pretty close and without mask on because they're working. They're using the same porta potties. They're eating off the same trucks. So if you're going to tell me 2,000 people isn't a problem when we're supposed to not even go visit our siblings, you know, it just, what gives, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so contradicting to me.
Well, and I think, you know, a lot of it just has to do with, you know, we can't stop these fucking things, you know, these viruses, and so they just try to put as many barriers up as we can, but then it's like society still has to exist. You know, people still have to be able to get food and all these things, so it's like, it's a hard thing. It's that fine line, and you know, I don't think anybody knows what we really should be doing. You know, we're just doing the best that we can for the dumb monkeys that we are, you know. And I always like to say, anytime people start bringing up crazy conspiracies or like giant plots by the government, that a lot of times, more often than not, you know, it's incompetence and error and people trying to cover up their own human mistakes, you know, as opposed to trying to, you know, evil mastermind some scenario. It's it's usually just someone fucked up really bad. They gotta fucking fix it and hide it and blame it on someone else and you know, blame shift and get the media to cover it up, and it just turns into this big mess of misinformation. You have no idea what the fuck's going on.
Well, that's the thing now. Like, people, no matter what you want to share, whether it's left, right, or in the middle, the critics of whatever that thought process will say, oh, well, look at this source that you're using, right? So the other day, we had a bit of an exchange with somebody I did on Facebook. I forget what the exact thing was, but their source, their credible source, was CNN. And I'm like, well, how can CNN be considered a credible source? I'm like, you know that they lie things, and then they were ragging on whatever source I use, which happened to be like a small independent source. But I'm like, you know, you have a legit, you know, thing there. You have a legit point, because this is not a well-known publication, but at least this publication isn't being called out for lying and misleading people on a big scale. So the truth is usually somewhere in the middle. You know, people talk about conspiracy theories, and I know some of it's completely nuts, but there's also, you know, conspiracy theory to me means using critical thinking. Like, if you don't believe what you're being told, you need to research what's going on. And when things don't add up, or like I saw a great quote the other day. They said something to the effect, I'm going to murder the great wording of it, but they basically said, how many coincidences can there be before something is a mathematical impossibility?
Yeah.
And so I start looking at different things, and I won't get into it now, but it's like, wow, it looks like there could be something more than just, a bat bit somebody.
Oh, yeah.
Or somebody ate a bat.
Well, you never know. I mean, you had the entire population of China rising up against the Chinese government and waving American flags and demanding democracy. And then the next thing you know, all of a sudden, everybody's sick and quarantined on their homes, and they're blasting fucking bleach on the streets instead of blasting their own people with fucking water cannons and mace.
Yeah.
And it's just like they were losing control big time. And they were going to extreme measures. They were basically fucking killing people over there to shut down these protests because they were losing control. And now all of a sudden, like right when that goes down, a plague fucking shuts the whole country down. And it's like, that is very convenient. And it's not like a 1 + 1 = 2 thing, but like you said, there can only be so many coincidences before things just are undeniable, but
like there's a major different thought process between like a lot of governments and ours. And you could say all you want about our government, and not even with Trump or Obama, which are polar opposites, but our government, no matter what, for the most part in the world, it's arguably one of the best places to live. And that's because we have more freedom than most places in the world. And the places that are used to controlling their people, like China's thought process is like, they want people to look at China as one thing. Like, all the people are one thing, and you make decisions based on the good of that one thing. So if the people look at things like China is the most important thing and society is the second most important thing, but individuality and your own worth is way down the list. It's not like we think of things as like each life is a valuable, precious thing, and you do whatever you can to sustain it. Out there, it's more like, if we got to get rid of these million people and the other 79 billion or whatever continue to live, then that's what we do, and it's almost as if the individual is listening to that system, they would almost live their own life for the better of everything else. So we have a different way of thinking there, but that model that China has makes it a hell of a lot easier to control a huge population of people than our model, which is like, screw you, I'm going to do what I can for myself and my family. A lot of people here are down to help other people, and we're definitely a giving society. You see beautiful examples of that every day, but most people are not going to put their own family in danger before helping someone else,
Yeah.
So let your own kid starve to death to feed another kid? Of course not. But people criticize our government, especially what's going on right now. I'm going to cut off funding here, cut off funding there, because people here, our vets and stuff, are dying, can't get simple necessities. So, that's the one thing. If there's a conspiracy theory about all this, there is a huge part of the planet that would rather have their people think of the setup in China as being the example rather than the example we show where there's freedom. And that's what scares me on a big level.
Well, and I think a lot of those people just aren't capable of taking care of themselves at this point, or they're more concerned with the large population of people that are incapable of taking care of themselves. And, that's that's a real problem that we're going to be facing, and it's going to become more and more of a problem as we go into the future and things become more automated, and the robots start taking over all the warehouse jobs and the simple service industry jobs. It's there's going to be a lot of people that we as a society need to figure out how we're going to take care of, because there's just not going to be anything for some of these people to do. And whether we like it or not, we can't just let, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of our own citizens just fall to the wayside. And we're starting to see it now, with what is there, 60,000 plus people in California that are homeless. It's just like,
Yeah.
What are we doing, man? As a society, we need to be doing something about that stuff. That's not going to get any better. And I think the whole, taking, I take care of number one, and everyone else can fuck off and die is not going to be a sustainable system. I mean, it's proving itself over and over again that greed and that individual need over the greater good of our own society ends up being a detriment almost. You see how like the toilet paper thing is a great example of that. Just people's greed and not caring for other people. They just went and took as much toilet paper as they could possibly fit in their vehicle, and didn't go and I went and got toilet paper, but I went and got enough I counted how much toilet paper I was going to need for 3 months, and I got 3 months worth of fucking toilet paper. Problem solved. I didn't fill my truck with, fucking a 6-year supply of toilet paper, so that there's no fucking toilet paper for anybody else to go get. And that attitude, I think, is becoming a big issue, and it's promoted. It's promoted big time in our culture, and the whole everybody gets a trophy, and you can be anything. Growing up, they just say anything you can dream of being, you can be. You're so special, and it's like, man, yeah, to a certain extent in America you can, but not everybody gets to be a fucking quarterback for the Patriots. That we need people doing all jobs, and all jobs are not bad jobs. That's you can't look down on people because they fucking clean a building. Custodial work is a very crucial part of every single fucking system, and those people deserve just as much respect as the people at the top. The fucking CEO is no different than the custodian. That's a human being, and they deserve respect, and they deserve a living wage and to be taken care of. They don't need to be put in this situation where I'm not getting a check next week, and all of a sudden, well, there goes my whole fucking existence because I barely make enough to fucking scrape by. And people are doing the payday loan thing, and it's just like it's just not fair, man. People don't need to be getting just enough. Like they should be getting enough to survive and put some money away and work on something. Like fucking CEO. People at the top don't need to make $50 million, and then they pay the 1,000 workers they make each fucking $10 an hour. It's just like that's so ridiculous. You can give up $20 million a year. You don't need that extra $20 million. Your fucking people that work underneath you need that money. They need it. You just want it, And that greed is a real detriment, I think, to our society. And I think it's gonna, if we don't do something about it, I think it'll collapse us ultimately. But
there's so many factors involved in that. Like everybody wants to buy cheap stuff. I don't mean cheap quality, but they want to pay the cheapest price, so then, you have the Walmarts of the world that come in and they take all these companies that make stuff and they tell them, we'll buy this much, but you have to do this and this. And it's always, nothing ever gets better in quality. It's always made cheaper and cheaper, and they're going to charge just as much as they can for it to be a little bit cheaper than the other guy and put them out of business. But I've always tried to go to the next tier, a tier higher than that. I love to try to help small businesses. I have a small business, and those sort of things whenever possible, than just going to the very cheapest thing. And it's like there's capitalism that has, there's like responsible good capitalism, which I believe in capitalism. Like a perfect example is I always use this, like you have In-N-Out Burger, right?
Great
and
example.
You go there and what's that?
I said great example. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they're a pretty big company. They're not as big as McDonald's, but they're a big company. Nobody's getting nobody that owns it and out is going broke. But they start their people off at a decent wage. They give them health benefits, and it shows in the way they work. You go to In-N-Out, and it's like a fine oiled machine. It's like you can tell. I've never been to In-N-Out where I saw like a bunch of miserable people. No. Everyone seems to have a smile on their face, and they're going on. It looks like they feel like they're being treated decently, unless there's some kind of evil rumor, like you're going to act like this, which I don't think there is. And then you have other places, like the McDonald's of the world, which have gotten better over the years from what I hear. But it's always just that corporate bottom line greed that, like what you were saying, it doesn't work unless it works for everyone. There's always going to be a high and a low. I'm not saying we can all be equal, but there's definitely a sweet spot where everybody's like, oh, okay. And all it does is create a better work environment. It makes customers happier. And we should try to turn that whole thing around about, oh, I can get it $1 cheaper at Walmart. Well, in the long run, is it really cheaper? When you think of all the different situations that get caused there, do you want to support a company that actually puts life insurance on, regular employees, like porters and cashiers and stuff? And if they die, they get the money, not even the family. It's crazy,
Yeah, that's
if a small business owner did that, they'd be thrown in jail.
Yeah, and
it's sad stuff.
Yeah, and that's the other problem with it is big companies like that, they just have the money to hire infinite lawyers and keep things constantly in appeal. So it's like pointless to even attack these people, and then they lobby the shit out of the government so that whatever they want to do, they just can do it, and they'll just make it the law of the land. I think that's a big problem. Yeah. It's a huge problem with everything. Is that. Fucking people just keep voting these corrupt ass motherfuckers into office, and I don't understand it, man. I really hope like this next generation, this next wave of people, they seem to be kind of aware of the situation going on over there. Finally, it's not just like I think as a society we all knew that shit was just corrupt and really just bogus things going on in the government. But like now it's just so out in the spotlight, and it's just so obvious, the murder and the corruption and everyone pocketing all our fucking tax money and then getting reelected over and over and over again. And it's like, why? People can't be that fucking dumb. And, and I think the manipulation is getting to a point where, I mean, a lot of people are still super easily manipulated, and you can see that on social media with them just regurgitating what they're told to regurgitate by the news. I'm trying to spread that message to everybody of brainwash bullshit, but there are a lot of people out there as well that see it for what it is, and it's this whole they live scenario where it's you put those magic glasses on, and all of a sudden it's like, this is all meant to deceive and take advantage of everybody.
And you almost can't fault them because they're being brainwashed from the time they're old enough to understand. And it was that other voice, which is in a small minority of people, that's the one good thing about the internet. As much as it spreads, a bunch of BS, there's also a lot of stuff out there that you wouldn't normally have access to, although it's becoming harder and harder to find, because the powers that be are clogging up all the algorithms and stealing all the stuff. Like the other day, I just typed in a simple thing, coronavirus briefing, what time is it at, right? I got 30 negative stories on Trump before I could actually just find out what time it's at.
Yeah.
That's not what it was. It's not what like Google is supposed to be. If I type something specific, it shouldn't be hijacked by a bunch of other propaganda. I should be able to find out when the, arguably the most important meeting in our country is on a daily basis without having to go through, 3 pages of stuff.
Yeah, the Trump blaming is a great example of the brainwashing that's going on too, man. Like everything is that guy's problem. He's the root of all problems in the world. Are you fucking for real? Like who is buying that, you know? But people are, and they just hate the guy so fucking much that they'll click on that stuff. Everybody's going to click on that. It does not matter what you say. If you put out a negative fucking thing about Trump, it's going to get a million clicks and a million likes, and people are going to go on there and just bandwagon the shit out of that. It doesn't have to be true. It doesn't have to be fucking anything. It just has to be hateful bullshit. You know, and people just eat it up, and it keeps fucking just spewing all over the internet, and it's like the more people eat it up, the more these companies are pressured to put out that kind of clickbait. You know, I mean, it's you put out what works, and that's what works right now. People are just blindsided by it. It's blind rage, you know, on a societal level, and it's really sad that the media takes such advantage of people that are in such a state. But that seems to be it's what's going on constantly, you know, and on both sides now too. It's the infinite soap opera of the political game, and you know, it's such a extreme narrative they're trying to tell. They give you two different channels depending on how you want to imbibe your brainwashing. You know, you can be fucking hard right or hard left, or you know, anything on that spectrum. They got the Fox News for the fucking people who love Trump, and they got the CNN for people who hate Trump, and they just blast you with propaganda, and people eat it up and regurgitate it to everybody that'll listen, and I think, and it's all lies and just bullshit. Right. You know, it's just get us all enraged and fighting with each other when really none of it fucking matters.
Divide and conquer. Divide and conquer. Yeah. Just keep everybody fighting with each other, so nobody concentrates on the real problems. Like, I would love to see a channel, right, where you have a right and a left independent, and they just debate everything with facts right there. And that's the one source. It's like boom, boom, boom. They have to back up everything they say. There's no clickbait headlines, you know, but you will never see that.
No. That's not the entertainment. This is entertainment for people. This is not a real political system. You know, the whole thing is now, it's become reality TV, and that's all it's going to be for a while, I think, until people just stop watching it in droves like they do. You know, I mean, they won't continue this fucking, I mean, well, the news stations probably will, understandably, being that Soros is trying to control the narrative of the fucking the political game, but I mean, I'm sure they'll just keep blasting it to people, but I mean, if we stop regurgitating it constantly and buying this fucking garbage product they're fucking selling us, I think it'll help a lot with society. You know, the saddest thing I see when I wake up in the morning, I always see this. It comes from both sides of the fucking spectrum, which is, if you believe this bullshit, we're not friends anymore. Right?
Yeah.
What the fuck? Okay, as a society, do we all just fucking go back to the 6th grade? Are we children? Can we not have a difference of opinion with each other?
Yeah.
You know, even if I think you're a fucking dumbass, that doesn't mean that we're not friends anymore. Grow up, man. Like, it's insane to me. You know, and people literally get in fucking huge fights. I was talking to a woman on a job site who started divorcing her husband. She was like, I'm divorcing that motherfucker. He voted for Trump. And I was like, damn, bitch.
Yeah.
You realize that you're the problem, right? Like, you are the issue. Not that he has an opinion and he voted for who he thought he should vote for. Whether or not you like that or not, your behavior is not acceptable. That's not okay.
Yeah.
That's not what we do when somebody has a different view than us. You know, we can be mature people about this. And there's just the yelling and the screaming and all the hate. It just doesn't get anywhere. It's not, and it's definitely not going to convince anybody of your viewpoint. It's going to ultimately push people away from your viewpoint when you just meet people with hate and that kind of venom all the time. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, you just end up with a bunch of, you know, like-minded, insane people just telling each other how great they are, and can no longer use critical thinking for anything.
Yeah.
It becomes so much of their their personality and soul, that even if one day they realized that they were completely wrong, they can no longer even admit it because it's everything. It's their whole being.
Yeah, it defines them as a character and it defines them as a person.
Yeah,
Almost. Yeah,
exactly.
their political party. I view it. See, I'm not much of a sports ball fan, but I see extreme similarities between being a team of a sports, being a fan of a sports team, and being a fan of a political party or a political candidate. And it really does not matter if they're winning or losing or doing dumb bullshit. You've picked your team, and now it's rah rah rah, rah rah rah, and nothing else matters, you know. And it's just like you said, no critical thinking on any subjects. It's just like my decision has been made up for me by the people that tell me how to make my mind up. You know, I decided a long time ago I was this color, and I'm blue or I'm red, and then whatever they fucking tell me to think, I'm going to fight to the death for it. And it's like, man, that is like fucking ridiculously stupid.
It's crazy. It's insane, and you're totally right. And I am a sports fan, but I've never been like. I've always been more into kind of like betting sports and trying to figure out what's going on. So I've never been like a diehard fan. You know, I have my teams I root for, but I would never like ever even think of ever getting in a fight over it. Oh my God, I like the Raiders and you like the Broncos. We can't be friends. It's insane. The players don't even care. The players will go from the rival to the other rival for whatever amount of money makes sense. Like you're literally arguing about a color, like an emblem. You know, it doesn't even matter to the people that are doing it.
Yeah, the team changes, the coaches change.
Yeah, it's just crazy. It's like having your two friends play a video game and fighting with each other because of the team that they picked. Makes no sense.
Yeah.
But, you know, it all goes under the same umbrella of brainwashing, you know, people that can no longer use critical thinking, or maybe they never even develop that skill. You know, they can't take evidence. They can only take what they've been told, you know. You need to go this way and never see a conflicting view, you know. This is it. It can only be this way because my dad told me that, or my uncle or my teacher. That's some really scary shit when you have the teachers now telling political views. Like, I don't remember ever having a teacher telling me political views in the 80s, you know? I imagine it wouldn't have went over too well.
Yeah, that's unacceptable shit, man. Like, they shouldn't have anything to do with that. Talking about that kind of stuff in class is just insanely inappropriate, and it should not be allowed at all. You know, that's... because now you're sitting there with a class full of 35 people or whatever, and so 17 of them fucking go one way and 18 go the other way, and you're gonna just fucking belittle those 17 people that don't agree with you or whatever, and try to force your agenda on people when they're trying to get an education. You know, it's just like, fuck you, man. You know?
And it rules the world. You know, that whole thing really does rule the world when you have like a society of people that think that way.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter, man. If somebody knows that you like Trump, or a certain sector knows that you're anti-Trump, there's people that no matter what, you're not getting that gig, that job, whatever that is, they're holding that against you. They may not say it or whatever. Instead, if somebody would just take it, take a second when you have a disagreement and just try to put yourself in the other person's shoes and think about where they're coming from. Why are they mad about? You know, it takes a lot of mental discipline to do that, but I try to do that every chance I can, and you know, it makes it a little easier maybe to come to some sort of understanding in the middle if two people think that way. Yeah, you know.
And you don't have to agree with people, but you can like make an effort to understand their point of view, you know, and then you can take that information and say, well, I don't agree with this information, but thank you for the conversation, you know, and you have your point of view, I have my point of view, and I'm going to keep my point of view, but this has been enlightening, you know, as opposed to you can go fuck yourself and fuck your candidate and fuck everybody that you that thinks the way you think. That's that doesn't get anybody anywhere. That's such a regression in our society and the civil politics that we're trying to put out, you know, where everybody is, you know, supposed to be loved and cared for, and everybody's important, you know, well, except for people that don't agree with me. That's the one. Yeah, it's fucking ridiculous.
They're not important. Yeah. Pretty wild.
Pretty wild
stuff.
Indeed. So let's move to something a little lighter. I know politics is a little heavy, and we've been talking about it for 45 minutes. We've already done the whole thing on politics. That's amazing. You are, in addition to a good conversationalist, an author and a songwriter. And we happen to have some music of yours right now. And hang on a second. Let's see what we got going on here. Oh, there it goes. This is Music Don't Pay the Bills.
At first glance into the music business, the average person sees fame, fortune, and everything that goes with it. In reality, record sales have been declining at an alarming rate. The effects are catastrophic. Record store closures, record company closures, and band breakups. More shockingly, streaming statistics, with 5 million streams paying out less than 200 in royalties. Musicians are left answering the same question: how do I pay the bills?
Put that guitar down, don't make another sound. You'll be lost and never found. Just keep that shit on round. Music won't pay the bills. Music won't pay the bills. Music won't pay the bills.
Oh, man.
Music won't pay the bills. You'll be stuck in a rut. Don't let it
Nice. Music won't pay the bills. I dig that shit. I always love having music on the podcast. I am a musician myself and a huge fan of the arts. So how'd you do that? Where'd you record that song at? And who's playing on that with you?
Let me tell you, that's where the whole thing stems from. Is I wrote a book called Music Won't Pay the Bills, self-published book. I put out like 2 months ago, and it's about my story with my love for music, how I kind of got into it. It kind of like saved my life in a way, as far as I think it kept me out of a lot of trouble that I might have got in when I was younger. I learned how to play guitar, and I just had this knack for songwriting from the time I was a kid. And it's just kind of like my story about what it was like to try to make it in music. It's all over the landscape of Vegas, and it goes into my 20s when I eventually had to quit my band and stuff, mostly because of this neurological disease that I had that I wasn't aware of. And when I say music won't pay the bills, it sounds kind of negative, and I'm not saying music don't pay the bills for everyone. It was a conversation that I had with my father when I got to a point of, look, because I told him, look, man, I want to get out of school. I want to pursue this music thing. Instead of going to school, I want to go and get a job and buy gear. And I was already playing like bars and stuff at 14 and had some people around. It's all in the book. But he just told me, well, what happens, if music won't pay your bills? Where are you going to be? And that whole thing kind of echoed in my head as I got older, and things weren't working out financially for music, like I hoped they would. But it was just kind of like, I think a lot of artists, musicians, entrepreneurs, anybody that's going to go through life in our society and try to, blaze their own path, not take the safe road. I think they all will come in to some sort of be criticized by people they love or peers or, just friends and stuff that are say, chances of making out are this, it's slim, it's hard, but, people do it and it pushes you. And my whole point in the whole book is that ultimately, yeah, music didn't pay my bills, but I got a ton of value out of learning how to play music, creating songs. To this day, like when GarageBand came out and I started finding a way to create music again without physically having to play guitar.
Yeah.
It was like a second shot at that part of my life again. You know, it's just amazing. It's so uplifting. Dealing with a neurological disease, you start to really appreciate the little things in life. You know, and I always took the attitude of, instead of worrying about what I can no longer do, I'm going to be grateful for what I can do. You know, right now. Like right now today, I can do this, this, and this. I may not be able to do it a year from now, but right now I'm glad I can. And there was some great inspiring stories I saw. Like, I don't know if you know about like Jason Becker. Are you familiar with Jason Becker?
Course.
You know, he's been living with ALS for over 20 years. This guy just made a phenomenal album, and all he can do is blink his eyelids, and he composed a whole album of beautiful music. And I'm like, you know, like whenever I start to feel down about my own physical limitations, I think, man, if Jason was in my shoes and could physically do what I could do, that would be like a new lease on life for him. So how can I feel bad? This guy had more than I ever had and lost 10,000 times more than I have. You know, and I think it just, you know, life becomes about perspective. And it's the music won't pay the bills thing is just a whole thing of like, even if you hear that in life from people, no matter what it is, you just got to do what's going to make you happy, or else you're never going to be happy. You know, I think if I would have went another direction, you know, like went to college or went to school and pursued something I didn't want to do to make other people happy, now that I'm in my 40s, I would have had this constant thing of, you know, what could I have done if I've only did this or that? You know, instead I got hit with this disease, and my wife and I went on and had a great life together, which we still do. And we did all kinds of cool stuff. And I did way much more really after being disabled than I did before that. But I have all of these things, like when you're a musician or artist or whatever, there's some things in the world you can't buy. You cannot buy the ability to play music. You have to practice it. All the money in the world isn't going to enable you to pick up a guitar and play. And that's such a magical moment. You know, a lot of my friends are musicians and stuff, and some of us like get so intertwined in the business part of it that you forget, you know, why you went there in the first point. And as I started writing this book, you know, all these cool memories came back. Like my very first show, and how exciting that was. Like I explained in there, like I have a room full of people, friends, and I'm playing at the Moby Grape, and I'm 14 years old. Like they literally said, you can come in the back and go out the back. Like I wasn't old enough to be there. Yeah, you know, it was pretty wild. And I remember being so nervous as we're going into the last beat of the song. Are they going to boo us? Are they going to clap? And when you hear that reaction from a positive crowd of a song that you wrote, to me, it's just like such a beautiful part of life. I wish everyone could experience it, you know? So that's, the book's about that sort of thing. And the song that you just played was such an amazingly cool thing. I wrote this song a long time ago. I was just kind of like getting in a garage band, and I was starting to write all this different stuff that I could have never done before, because I was always in like rock and metal bands. And you know, you don't think about writing like a hip hop type of song, or you're writing stuff that makes sense with what you're doing, you know? So I had this weird voice in my head that kept saying, music won't pay the bills. Music won't pay the bills. It's like a Black Eyed Peas kind of thing in my head. And as I wrote this song, I thought about the title, and I'm like, oh man, this would be cool to do this. So my wife, you know, is Alex Goldstein Entertainment, and she has done a bunch of cool events in town, and, you know, met a bunch of cool people that are friends and stuff. And the last couple of years, they always throw me like a huge birthday party. You know, one year they surprised me and had people learn a bunch of my songs and went there and they played a concert of just stuff I wrote. And this year, Mike Varney the owner of Shrapnel Records.
Oh yeah, I know Mike.
Is a good friend of ours, and he was talking to Allison. He goes, "Look, this year for Danny's birthday, let's let him pick one of his songs, and we'll have a party, and we'll go down to Danny Coker's studio, Desert Moon, and record the song, So I'm like, wow, that's cool. And I just wrote the book, and I was thinking, it'd be cool to have like a soundtrack song for the book. And all of these cool people got involved. Phil Verone played drums, he was in Saigon Kick and Skid Row. Tony Curtis, he's always just been a great friend. Barney played on it. I had Paul from Systemic, who's a great musician. Tyler from Alligator Blood, he's a good friend of mine. Mariah Baldwin, and Chris Logan, who was in the Michael Shagner group. And God, I hope I'm not forgetting someone. Barry Barnes, our friend AJ produced it, and then Phil Verone came in a few months later, and he brought the track over to another studio, and they finished it because everybody's schedule got so crazy. I mean, I'm sitting there trying to schedule 8 or 9 different people together. Even Mike Gillies, the engineer that worked with Metallica for years and years and years, came in and started helping on it. And we took that crazy song and we put it pretty much all together in one day, And we've been going back and tracking other solos and stuff, but it's just an amazingly fun situation. And what I decided to do is I'm going to write like a whole theater production, kind of like a hard rock version of Hamilton. It's going to be like a theater production of Music Won't Pay the Bills. It's just going to be about the whole love of music and the whole mindset of the whole musician thing. So it's a project in the works.
That's awesome. That's a big project, man. Putting together a big production like that.
Man. It is. It's just going to be it's quite a challenge. But I got about 4 songs done for it, and I have to literally figure out how to do a screenplay for it. But I have a bunch of ideas. I think it'll be really rewarding. Just even if nothing happens commercially with it, it'll be just a really cool mountain to climb if I can pull it off.
Yeah, it's always great to put a big mountain in front of yourself, man. I love having a big project and a big challenge to overcome. That's what this podcast has been for me, learning. Every week I add something new to the podcast, learn a new skill. It's great, That's what life's about, challenging yourself and creating experiences and memories, man. I'm stoked for you.
Yeah, just a
journey ahead of you.
It's really cool how you can just take something that's in your head, it just starts like a little idea, and it seems so insurmountable. And as you sit there and just chip away at the stone, as they say, eventually it becomes something. And it's, I've always loved that part of it.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Well, man, we are coming up on the hour right now. I love it. That is always great. I love getting an hour out of a podcast, man. And it's been great having you on here, Mr. Danny Goldy Jr. You mentioned Tyler Lawson. You said you were on the track on the new Alligator Blood album with Tyler. Dance Fucking Dance, is that what it is?
Yeah, I wrote this track called Dance, and I met Tyler, it must have been 2 or 3 years ago now, and we became friends, and I love the sound of his band and his vocals. And I told him, hey, man, I got this song, you want to check it out? Maybe you guys can play it or record it or whatever. And it was kind of like a process. And then his guitar player, producer Christian, took it, and they kind of, I like to say, they kind of added a few pints of alligator blood into it. And it became this really cool track. And I was honored they put it on their album. And it's really cool. Dig it.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, I'll definitely put a link to the Alligator Blood album down on the descriptions below. And we actually have Tyler Lawson coming in for a podcast in a couple weeks, so definitely check that out. I think he'll be coming up in the next 2 or 3 podcasts we do. We'll be having Tyler Lawson here. I don't know if you know, a good friend of mine. I've known Tyler for a long time, played in Cracker Man together, and the guy's a madman.
Yeah.
I friggin' love Tyler. He's one of my favorite people in the world. world, man. He's so cool.
You guys did the coolest local TV performance ever in the history of the world.
Oh yeah, we're almost at that, dude. That's almost at 6 million views. I got shared that again the other day. I can't believe that video is almost at 6 million views. Just us smashing up all those guitars on that morning podcast or that morning television show. Yeah, that was great. That was great. Tyler always loves smashing that shit.
Yeah, that's before I ever met Tyler, and I was cracking up when I saw that. You know, some people locally were like, you know, saying stuff about it negative. And I'm like, that's great. I mean, that's what it's about. Get out there and get attention and do it up. That was so entertaining.
Oh, we wanted the negative press. We wanted people to, you know, we wanted to kind of be the heel, as it were, like for wrestling. You know, we were those dickheads who were going to smash everything and piss everyone off and get banned from every venue. And yeah, it was a lot of fun, man. I wouldn't take any of that back for anything, man. That was probably one of the funnest bands I ever played in. Was with fucking Tyler.
You know, you did
some shit. That was so great.
And Stern. That was great.
Yeah. Oh, that was, you know, that was one of the best times, man. So, yeah, but we'll have him on. We'll be talking about the old days, I'm sure, and talking about his new project, Alligator Blood, with his new album. Yeah, I'm looking forward to having Tyler on, man. And yeah, and again, man, I really enjoyed our conversation, Danny. You've been amazing. I'm really glad to have you on the show. So let's see here. We got you can check out Danny Goldstein at Danny Goldstein Music on Facebook. Of course, we have his book, the new book, out on Amazon. Music Won't Pay the Bills, and that's available by Goldy Jr. And you can see it on the screen there. Yes, very nice, very nice. And yeah, we'll put the link to the Alligator Blood album down there as well. You can go pick that up. I know that that's available on Spotify as well as I'm sure iTunes and other any place you can get music. Tyler's pretty efficient at that stuff, so I'm sure it's everywhere. But yeah, once again, man, thank you so much, Danny. And yeah, if you want to give a shout out to anybody before we head out, man, we're gonna play your. We're going to play some music for a little bit more. Music Won't Pay the Bills as we cut out, man.
Thanks for having me. And I just want to say, hi, Alice. I love you, Bear. And that's about it. Hi, everybody else.
There you go. Well, thank you so much again, Danny. And yeah, here is we'll fade the rest of the podcast out with the extended version of Music Won't Pay the Bill.
All these tortured souls, and round they go. When they stop, I'll probably know. Get alone. Music won't pay the bill. 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 Music won't pay the bills, but music gives me chills. You get body skills, you can't take a pill. 'Cause it's a adrenaline injection, exceeds all projection. When the club's packed, when you walk the track, it's a groove infection, a nuclear detection, a Viagra-filled direction, a life without rejection. I'm the one exception. No, 'cause music won't pay the bill. 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 Music won't pay the bill.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching my podcast. You can check out more podcasts right here and subscribe by clicking right here. We are a new podcast every Monday morning at 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.